I know, because you can always see how many people are watching, and it's like,
you see them leave,
stressful.
you're like, see
yeah.
ya, thanks for popping in.
Hello and welcome to See You Live. I'm Susan Post, Associate Editor of Columbus Underground, and I have with me today local comedian Amber Falter.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great, chilling.
So I want to talk a little bit about your comedy and you know how long you've been doing this. So first, tell us a little bit about when you first developed an interest in comedy, and you know, were there any shows or comedians that kind of really inspired you?
Absolutely. So I think I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and it all kind of started, I was in college and I was just really overwhelmed. I was bartending and just full-time school, and I kind of got to the point where while I was taking notes, I was going off on weird tangents and like just writing this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sweet, like I'm a crazy person. What does any of this mean? So like studying, I was getting really confused. I was like, I guess I'm an idiot. I'm not good at college. But then I just started going to open mics and just kind of watching. So back in the day, kind of like Laura Sanders, Nikki Winkleman, Kamari Stevens, they were like all these really great supportive people. And Travis Haywisher.
Yeah.
So they were all super sweet and helped me out a lot in terms of like getting my foot in the door and making me feel a lot more welcome. But yeah.
And you were mentioning you did this for about 6 years. So do you remember like your first stand-up show that you did and kind of what that experience was like?
Oh my gosh. Okay. What was like the first? I like did a funny bone competition.
Oh wow. Okay.
And it was a scary, scary nightmare. It was just so weird because so many of my friends would come to see me, and I probably was like the most annoying comedian there in terms of like I was so bad, and it was great. I probably ticked off a lot of other comedians that were actually good.
So how did you get more comfortable on stage and, you know, feel more confident performing over time?
You know, it really is a matter of like getting out there and just doing it over and over again. And I think I've always kind of been a shy person, so it's like still really funny to me that I'm like getting on stage, or like especially with COVID, I'm like, I used to perform so often. How? Like I'm like, I love being home right now. It's like such a nice break. But I think, I mean, you just keep going out there, and especially being a woman, it was always really hard.
Yeah.
I definitely felt like it was a huge boys club. I mean, it still really is in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So after a while, I think I just got really lucky in terms of the people I met, and especially a lot of female comedians or really supportive male comics that were creating spaces and giving us platforms and making us feel a lot more welcome and included, which was really important for our confidence and all that. So moving forward from like those earlier years, when it came to creating my own spaces, I was like, I try so hard to uplift women and marginalized comedians as well. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. You know, so leading up to the pandemic, I feel like Columbus was really starting to develop more of a scene for comedy. You've got dedicated venues now and different events. You know, so how have you seen Columbus's comedy scene kind of grow and evolve over the last few years?
So I feel like when I first got into the scene, there were kind of like three realms, and there was like it was almost kind of cliquey, and it was absolutely intimidating,
I'm sure.
but you know, and I always appreciated being on all of their shows, you know, and like I learned so much about show production and what I liked about what each person did.
Okay.
And I wrote down a lot of what I hated that they did.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I ever run some shows, like here's what I want out of it. I want my comedians to feel like this, you know, welcome and valued, and try to pay them. And I want my audience to feel safe and represented with the lineups that I choose. But back in the day, I just felt like it was so, you're on like one of these three platforms. And since then, it's been really, really cool to watch other people branch out and younger comedians kind of start their own shows, and it's like, to hell with it. If it's fun and you have a cool idea for a show, then do it. It's not like it shouldn't be some monopoly or some stupid thing, and you shouldn't have to impress two different people to be a part of the scene. I think it's just been really, really cool to watch it grow, and I'm very proud of it. So it's been really fun to be a part of.
So, I mean, obviously the pandemic's had a huge impact on events. You know, so what have the last several months been like in terms of kind of watching the situation unfold and, trying to figure out a way forward. Are shows starting to pick back up again now, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I feel okay. I've been seeing more out of town comedy shows kind of returning. We don't really, a lot of the Columbus independent scene doesn't really branch out to Funny Bone or anything like that. I don't feel like we work with them or they book us very much. And a lot of our independent venues haven't really popped back up like I've seen like in Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Cleveland. But I did see a bunch of the virtual shows, the online stuff. I did a couple of those myself and kind of ran some things, which was fun. But I've been surprised that more people haven't tried to put on more like shows or whatnot. And I know it feels like personally as a producer, I haven't wanted to produce any shows. I would feel bad booking people and inviting people out in certain spaces and venues, and now it's getting colder. So some of the outdoor shows.
Balance, keeping people safe.
So I'm just like, I don't feel totally ready yet to do that, but I'm excited for it to come back, and I think people are getting very creative. And
Is it strange, doing a comedy show virtually when there's no audience that you can kind of like see and hear laughing? Like, what's that like?
It feels like you're a total narcissist, and you're staring at your own face on a screen, and you're just like, I think these jokes are funny.
I couldn't do it.
And then it's so it's humbling. They've been fun. There were some that were really awesome and extremely well done, and others that were like, wow. What are any of us doing with our lives?
I know, because you can always see how many people are watching, and it's like...
you see them leave, you're like, see ya, thanks for popping in.
So how has the pandemic impacted your comedy? Has it given you more time to write, or is it, kind of hard to be creative right now?
I think initially I was extremely grateful for the break. And I think my brain in comedy, parts just broke down and began to rest for the first time in years. And I didn't write anything for a long time, and I was doing these virtual shows and doing old jokes, and I was like, this sucks. It's not the same. But more recently I've been writing, and it just feels so good to get away from like old material, I think. I think like the train was running so quickly back in the day for me, doing 3, 4, 5 shows a week.
Sure, you just get burnt out.
And like you just don't really have time to create new material, and you're just like kind of go, and you're doing your best stuff, and you don't really have time to switch it up or explore anything new. So I've actually really cherished this time mentally.
That's awesome.
So it's been really fun to write new material for once. So it's been a while.
Great. Well, I saw on the website you do have a few shows coming up. So tell us a little bit about where we can find you in the next couple months.
So at the end of this month, October 29th, I will be at Ace of Cups. I think it's a Thursday, and I'm doing a 2-part thing, or it's just me and one other person band. It's Mary Steele. And it's going to be weird and spooky and Halloween themed, and very excited. Awesome. It'll be a very creepy comedy show / music show. So.
Sounds seasonally appropriate.
It'll be great. So that's about it for now.
Awesome. Well, great. Amber, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.